Hi there, Chris Newman. Today's topic is He Wakaputanga, also known as Busby's 1835 letter, the Declaration of Independence, which was written in English. So why are we calling it Wakaputanga or He Wakaputanga when it's in English? Good question. So funny thing is there's been a sudden interest from the treatyists in this little document, and it was forgotten and irrelevant really from 1835 till 2000. Why is it that over that period many very intelligent historians, lawyers, parliamentarians, Maori leaders had no interest whatsoever in this document, but suddenly now it's a big flavour and people are really inspired, and yet the original signatories, there were 29 of them, northern chiefs, and there was 6 others from the Thames Tauranga area. They pretty well forgot it after they'd signed it, and they were part of the 512 who signed Te Tiriti o Waitangi, which the same James Busby helped to draft. These are big questions. The answers will become clearer as we go on, but in this little exploration of Wakaputanga, the Declaration of Independence, I can only give you a brief feeling for what's going on. It's a very simple thing, but it's been turned, like many of these cases have, into a forest of all kinds of ideas and imaginative stories. Let's discuss a little bit more. The document was written by James Busby, sent to Sydney, and a copy also made it to London, and King William IV gave it a very kind approval because it was asking him to be the king and protector of New Zealand, a parent of the chiefs. And there was also a matter of a flag, which we can discuss in some length, and that really is a side issue because it was just about shipping. More important is Busby's status. And was this document a constitution? No. I'm going to read from a couple of books which mention the topic at some length. This one is called Maori and Pākehā, and it was printed in 1922, and it was written by Shrimpton and Mulgan. And at that time there was no ideological political interest in stirring up the facts and inventing stories. So let's read what this little book has to say. And there's a backstory about this this document. However, it was in every way the product of its time. Busby had arrived, as the British resident had arrived in Paihia, and he was concerned about goings-on because the country was very unruly, and he wrote many letters petitioning England to help. Now it says in their Declaration of Independence, which of course was coordinated by Busby, the chiefs claimed all sovereign power and authority within their territories. This is only 29 of them, so it's just a small percentage. They agreed to meet annually in Congress at Waitangi to frame laws for the dispensation of justice, but that never happened. It was meant to be an annual meeting, never ever occurred. They also agreed that there would be the preservation of peace and good order, wonderful sentiments, and the regulation of trade, wow. And in return for the friendship and protection they had shown to his subjects, they entreated the king to continue to be the parent of their infant state and the protector of its independence. Now, the idea of maintaining a native sovereignty was mere mockery. and that of the Maoris meeting in Congress was extremely ludicrous in view of their ignorance of parliamentary institutions and legal procedure, and the lack of cohesion among the tribes. In fact, two of the tribes that had signed the agreement were at war with each other within 18 months. So Mr. Busby was ridiculed by Governor Burke in Australia for his stillborn constitution. And Governor Gipps ridiculed Busby for his paper pellet fired off at the Baron de Thierry, because the Declaration of Independence was an attempt by Busby to preempt Baron de Thierry's claims to sovereignty over New Zealand. Now, Busby sent this copy of the Declaration to the Colonial Office, head office in London. Lord Glenelg replied through Governor Burke in a dispatch dated May 25th, 1836. So the declaration was in October 1835, so in May 1836 getting a response. It was a mere expression of goodwill and proffer of such protection as might be consistent with the rights of others. And seeing that the British government then had no intention of taking any effective steps for the protection of New Zealand, these were but empty words. So it's really a bit of a comic opera. And so it said that Mr. Busby was regarded merely as a figurehead, possessing only the semblance of power and the shadow of authority, and he was a toothless watchdog, or in the time-honoured phrase of Carlton, this man of war without guns. It was a dismal failure, and his ineptitude was too obvious to be endured for too long, and so on and so forth. And so it was very unimportant, shall we say, and to elevate it from, in this time, to a constitutional document by people who weren't there, who don't understand the time, and who have another agenda, is really a travesty. There's another book, The Constitutional History of New Zealand, which addresses the matter. So it wasn't any secret hidden from us. It wasn't some special dispensation. This book, written in May 1914, addresses the same matter. And it says that Mr. Busby's rule, if such it can be called, was quite inadequate and the subject of much ridicule. Of the letter of instructions, this is this thing here. Two things had been asked for by the chief: the assumption of guardianship and the coercion of lawless British vagabonds. With neither of these did Lord Goderich or Sir R. Burke affect to deal, except in the vague language in the letter of the former to the chiefs. Busby was not to blame for doing nothing, after having been officially told that there was nothing that he could do. And Mr. William Pember Reeves aptly categorised Busby's official career as a prolonged burlesque, a farce without laughter, played by a dull actor in serious earnest. The oft-quoted phrase, the man of war without guns, exactly describes the unfortunate man placed in an official position without any force to support him, and it was doubtless an appreciation of the circumstances, coupled with a fear of the French and a singular lack of common sense, that led him to perpetrate his remarkable fiasco of 1835, the only noteworthy incident of his term in office. And it goes on in great detail about, in this constitutional history, about this constitution and the 35 chiefs who signed the declaration. And it goes through the details, which is, it wasn't a big thing. And his, as I say, his action was dubbed silly and unauthorised, a paper pellet fired off at Baron de Thierry, and nothing more was ever heard of the instrument of government ushered into the world with so much ceremony, and then it faded. It's a bit like a Gilbert and Sullivan opera, and it says here at the end, scarcely had Busby's farce been played to its inglorious end when events began to move towards a deliberate and official colonisation of New Zealand. In 1836, a select committee of the House of Commons denounced the lawless and infamous mode of British colonisation, which is now making rapid progress, and which all testimony concurs in asserting it threatens to exterminate the New Zealand race. So what was happening was the British in London were starting to get worried about business interests and travellers and adventurers turning up here and overthrowing any semblance of order that the British had tried to maintain among the settlers, about 2,000 of them, and therefore the attention began to move into New Zealand from London. But Busby's effort, as we have now discovered, was it a constitution? No. Was it a Declaration of Independence? It was a sentiment, shall we say, that went nowhere. And therefore it was forgotten and irrelevant until about 2000. So now we know the sudden interest by the treatyists in this matter is highly likely to be malicious, because they have another agenda, and that agenda is constitutional. It's a matter of attempting to usurp the proper established order in New Zealand by undercutting the meaning of what we have here established already constitutionally, using James Busby. He would turn over in his grave. He was not a rebel, not a traitor, not against the established order of things. In fact, he was, as we now know, the man who drafted the treaty in English, and the treaty in English incorporated all the ideas which were in this Declaration of Independence, plus another level of national establishment, which was far above the tribal level of the chiefs. So I'll stop at that point. Just a brief introduction and an overview of the Declaration of Independence.